Hi friends, and welcome back to Life Coaching by Morella. I'm Morella, I'm a certified life coach and I'm also a mom, and this is a place that I like to go deep into conversation and offer SOS to the MOM. With the July 4th festivities among us, and as we celebrate the birthday of this great nation, it seemed only fitting that today's topic would be about freedom. I'm going to be talking about freedom today, but not in the way that you think. When we think of freedom, at least here in the US, there are so many concrete and tangible expressions of our freedom. I think of our freedom of choice, our freedom of speech, our freedom of expression, so many things, right? But you know where you're likely not free? Because so many of us struggle in this area, and it's that we're not experiencing the level of freedom from worry, from stress, from anxiety of what is our life. And I get it, because life gives us a lot to worry about, a lot to stress over. And today's tip is simply to give yourself permission to let it go. Letting go. It's that annoying, simple phrase that well-meaning friends share with us, right? And if it were only that simple, if only I could let it go. I'm here to reinforce the idea that you can let it go, or at the very least, set it aside. Set the worries, the stress, the burden, the wounds, all of it aside, and make a choice to focus on something new. We always have a choice to take in a different story or to focus on a different thought. And you might be thinking right now, I have no idea what she's talking about, because what I'm going through is real. And what I'm feeling is really hard. What I'm about to share with you is a discipline, like any good discipline. It's gonna be unfamiliar and uncomfortable and impossible to do, but I want you to hear me out. So how do we set aside the old story and introduce a new story, or that new narrative, a new thread of dialogue? If you think about what a group chat is, there's a select few of people who are involved in a specific conversation, and it's playful, and there's some maybe lighthearted banter back and forth, or some information being shared, and all that is fun, right? When you're in real time involved in a chat, that is fun. But then there comes a tipping point. And that tipping point, you start to feel it like, oh, this is getting a little too much. It's too much and too long. So what do? We start a side thread conversation with maybe one person, and what you're doing is you're debriefing about the longer thread. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is to set aside the main chat that's going on, the chatter that's going on in your mind, and be open and willing to starting a new thread, a new conversation. So this is going to require several things. First is the willingness to set aside that narrative, set aside the feelings, the emotions, the pain, the frustration at your husband, the impatience that you have with your children. I want you to set that aside for just a moment. It's not going away. You have every right to talk about it and to think about it and to acknowledge it, because what you're feeling is valid. But in order to step into a new dialogue or be open to new possibilities, we have to be willing at least to set aside the narrative. So how do we learn to do this? It's going to require three things. And like I said, one is the willingness to set aside the story, the narrative, the one that makes us feel right or superior or victim-y sometimes. So we got to be willing to set that apart. That's number one. The second one is saying to yourself, there's another way. There's a better way of handling. So I'm going to release the old story so then I can embrace a new story. And how do you embrace a new story? Well, it usually starts with a new thought. And that new thought is inspired by deeper questions. And this, my friends, is what I do in my life coaching sessions. That's what our sessions is all about, is me asking new questions, provocative questions, stimulating questions that then inspire new thought in you. And these new questions typically start with what ifs. Generally speaking, I avoid the what if questions, because the what if questions usually have us focusing on circumstances that haven't happened. What if this happens? What if that happens, right? And that generally leads to a downward spiral of anxiety. We're worrying in advance of the thing that hasn't happened yet. But the what if questions that I want to help you answer are the ones that are going to move you forward. And here are some of the questions. What if you took a moment in your situation to reflect on whatever's causing you stress and worry? Ask yourself, what if this were here to teach me something? What if this very thing is here for my good or my highest good? How can this thing that I'm experiencing right now shape me to be a better me? And if this were here, if this thing were happening, how can it be happening for my good and my growth? What is it that I need to become more of to handle this situation? And this usually touches on our spiritual needs, our needs to be more compassionate or show more empathy, or to love more, or trust more, or be more understanding and patient with someone or something. I know this is hard and it probably sounds foreign to some of you, but this, I'm telling you, is one of the most empowering things that any of us can do. Give yourself permission to let go of that first story, that old story, the victim story. You are allowed to let that go and start something new anytime. Start that new thread, that new conversation that's going to take you somewhere else, somewhere new and somewhere better. And isn't that ultimate freedom? The freedom to choose? The ability to choose something new? It's what our founding fathers did. They left an old regime, a restrictive way of living, to start something new. And you too can always start something new. It's only a thought away. That's it for today. Happy 4th, my friends, and I will see you soon.